Hi, how's it going, everyone? Looks like we got some people already commenting, hanging out. Thank you so much. I appreciate you joining me here for today's Post-it Pop Art live stream during the coronavirus stay-at-home season. So if you're at home, if you're at work, maybe you're at work as well. Some people are out there working. And for those that are out there working, thank you for going out there and taking the risk that you are to take care of whatever it is that is your responsibility, whether it's caring for people, treating people, or those working in doctors' offices and hospitals. Thank you for your tireless efforts. Thank you to our postal characters and trash collectors, delivery people, store clerks, tellers, stock people who are stocking our shelves, delivery guys transporting new supplies across the country and other countries. Thank you so much, everyone, for your support and your care for us. And for those of you who are not able to work and you're trapped at home, trying to find ways to fill your day, hopefully, thank you for joining me here. I hope you have fun. I hope that, and if you're not able to go to school, kids, so glad you're here too. Let's all draw together. So today, I'm going to draw on this blue Post-it note, and I'm going to draw black lightning. That some telemarketer tried to call. No telemarketers, please. I need to set this thing to do not disturb next time. Black Lightning, he first debuted in the 1970s in DC Comics, joined Batman's team, The Outsiders, with Metamorpho and Halo and Katana. So now Black Lightning has his own CW show. He's still kicking around the DC universe, so I thought he'd be a fun character to draw, and we're going to really play with some lightning effects. So I'm really excited to kind of see what we can experiment with that. So feel free to draw on whatever you have. If you have Post-it notes, great. Draw on a Post-it note. Join me. If you have your own type of paper, sketchbook, construction paper, notebook paper, legal pad, whatever you got, draw on that. Because we're about word materials and tools. I do this all the time. My wife catches me do this all the time. I'll think two different words, synonymous words, and my brain will merge the two and say some weird word. So you just caught me doing that here on the live stream. Use whatever materials or tools you have to draw with. Pencils, crayons, watercolor, acrylics. If you want to do an oil painting, please feel free. But enough jibba jabba. Let's flip the camera around and let's get to drawing. All right, so just the classic readjust the camera and rig. I'll try to respond to questions and comments as we go and share with you my tips and tricks and approach to my art that might help you with your art. But the main thing here is having fun. We're just all about having fun. Draw at whatever skill level you are at. So, using trusty Rusty here, the Unicura Toga 0.3 HB lead mechanical pencil. And I'm going to start with a circle. If I'm drawing a person, more than likely, 99% of the time, I believe I'm going to start with some sort of circle shape to get that skull going. Going to do the underdrawing first, get my foundation, and build from there. How do I hatch so well when I'm shading? You know what? It comes with a lot of study and practice. That's all art really is. Not all art really is. It's a big component of art, is study and practice, observing shapes and conveying shapes. So got that circle for the top part of the skull, and then we're going to bring the jawline down and then cut over here to the chin. Got that center line that runs down the middle of his face. Now, Black Lightning, I did a little research last night to get prepared because he's had several different looks and styles. I'm going to do more of his current comic book look. Not his classic comic book look, not the TV show version, but the current comic book look. So he's kind of got he's got a strong jaw. And he's he's a good sized guy. He's pretty bulky. Now he's not like Hulk level bulk. I'd say he's probably somewhere between Batman and Superman, somewhere in that range. So he's going to have a fairly thick neck, but like I said, not Hulk thick. Is it better to practice full faces or individual parts, eyes, mouth, noses, etc.? You know what? All of it. All of it. You can focus on certain parts. You can focus on how you put it all together. It all depends on what you feel you need to work on. So when I was taking art classes and after school art classes, art for an elective in junior high and high school, and even going to art college, we did both. We focused on, sometimes we'd do exercises, it's just draw eyeballs. Fill up a page full of eyeballs or noses or mouths. And then sometimes it was like, okay, draw a full face, draw a full figure. Just focus on hands. Just focus on feet. Just focus on knees, you know? So sometimes you can focus on a certain area, and then other times you can just work on the whole shebang. So both ways. It can just vary from day to day. All right, so we're gonna bisect this head, find that eye line, which is generally between the top of the head and the chin. And then from here, we go from the eye line to the chin about roughly halfway down is the nose line. Then roughly halfway down from the nose to the chin is the mouth. These are really rough estimates here. They can vary from person to person. Let's get some ears chopped here on the side. And those usually go between the nose and eye line here. Actually, top of the ear is right about where the eyebrow would be. How was my birthday yesterday? Thank you. Yes. Yesterday was my birthday, and it was, you know, first time I've celebrated a birthday during a pandemic stay-at-home order. So it was very chill, but I appreciated everyone's posts. I had friends texting me, and I appreciate everyone's posts and comments on all the different social media platforms. So thank you so much for that, everyone. It really made my day special. So thank you so much for all the love and support. Had a really great day considering the season that we're in. It was a nice, actually fairly chill and relaxing sort of way to celebrate. So just at home, checked out the movie Onward. We downloaded that last night on Amazon Prime and watched that, so that was fun. And I ate my favorite pizza for dinner. So, or pizzas. We actually got 2 pizzas. So just spent the time with my wife, and it was really good. So we have the eyeballs here, one on each side. About the space between the 2 eyes could be about 1 eyeball width. Pull down from the center of the eyes towards the chin, and now I know how wide to make a mouth. Now he's got kind of a broad nose, and he wears goggles, so that's going to be a factor here. Now this is my first time to draw this design of Black Lightning, if maybe not my first time to ever draw Black Lightning. So I definitely had to do some research here to get his costume design. So we've got these, it's got a unique shaped goggles, kind of goes around each eye and then connects here in the middle. The lens actually is one piece that goes from one side to the other. And it looks like the goggles kind of, the rim covers up his eyebrows. So I don't think we'll be seeing his eyebrows. And from the reference I found, it looks like oftentimes the yellow lens kind of, the tint of it blurs out his eyeballs. So we might not even see his eyes underneath. They're so reflective, we might just show a reflection or maybe a hint of eyeball underneath. And he's got these little tabs that come off the bottom of the goggles onto his cheek. So a lot of the pencil stage here for me is just sculpting and setting up the foundation that I'll use for the finished line art. So I gave him a broader nose. So nice wide arc to the nostrils there. And then got that little philtrum, that's that little trough between the bottom of your nose and the top of your lip. Want to give him some nice full lips here. Top lip and bottom lip. Figure out my chin there, make sure my chin shape. Give him kind of more of a serious kind of expression to his mouth. And then the hairline from the eye line to the top of the head is usually about halfway. Looks like he's got fairly standard hairline. And we're going with a closer cropped hair. So you can adjust the hairline depending on the character. Some characters have more forehead, some have an average amount of forehead, some might even have less. And it looks like he kind of has a bit of a fade. So we're going to allow for that. For that sweet fade, which will be a series of lines there on the side of his head. Like I said, looks like he keeps his hair very close cropped, so they'll take it pretty much right to the skull. In fact, I'm going to pull out some of these sketch lines so I know exactly where that top of the head is, and then this will all be black. So just doing some adjustments here. When we get to the inks, we'll really start to see how these lines, which lines I'm going to pick to make that final line art. Oh, and then have to account for his uniform. So he's got a high collar. Got the neck muscles there, and then let's see, he's got like a blue stripe that runs down the center with black on the outside, but then yellow lightning bolts that run in between the blue and the black from what I can tell here. So we'll just see kind of the top parts of the lightning bolts sticking off the side there. All right, and then we're going to really use up this real estate here for some lightning effects as we move a little further into this illustration. But it's not quite time for lightning effects just yet. So double checking my reference material here, we do see a little bit of this eyebrow underneath. So I'm going to have some semblance of the shape of his eyeballs in here. I thought I was going to make it just more kind of reflective. And you can make it reflective to where you can't see his eyeballs at all if you want. But me, I don't know. I think that seeing his eyeballs could really help kind of convey some of his emotion and character. All right. Now it's time for inks. We're going to use the black Pigma Microns. 005 and the 001 for tighter details, finer details. But we're going to use the 0.8 micron, a thicker tipped micron here to kind of get the initial contours going. I'm going to start with the goggles here because they're more in the foreground. They're sitting on top of his face. And my kind of generalized rule of thumb is oftentimes start with what's in the foreground and then work my way to the background. I don't always do it that way, but most of the time I seem to go that way, at least starting off. I kind of jump around from one thing to another. Sometimes, like, I'm working on the goggles, then all of a sudden, you know what? I want to move to his hair or something like that. Could be a little random sometimes. So just getting that initial shape of the goggles put in, and then I'll come in with finer detail as we go. Now onto the jawline here. How much do I like Copic markers? I've really enjoyed them. They have pretty much been my sole brand of marker I've used regularly for about, gosh, I think I first started using them about 12 years ago. That's when I got started getting my first Copic markers, and I really do enjoy them. There are a lot of other great brands out there. I haven't really used them much. Arteza is a brand that I've used, and they're good. Touch, I know a lot of artists use the Touch brand of sketch markers. And Prismacolor has been a classic brand for a lot of years. Have not used much Touch or Prismacolor, so I can't really speak to those, but I know they exist. I know that a lot of artists use those brands. And there are a lot of other brands out there as well. And but yeah, I kind of started off with Copic as my first brand of sketch marker, and really haven't deviated from that because I've spent so much time and resource building up my Copic collection. All right, so yeah, just continuing to get these initial lines in, these initial shapes. How do I make different wides with just one liner, different line variation? Some of it is by the amount of pressure I put down, like I can go thick to thin, and then sometimes I can build up the line when necessary, which I do often, is just repeatedly going over that one section. Like if I want a thicker line right there, just kind of build it up. Just several strokes to make that line, or that section of line, a little thicker than maybe another portion of the line. So like going over that bottom of the chin line several times to make that line thicker as needed. Kind of get his shoulder muscles there, and then we have that clavicle, which we won't see much of. So neck muscle striations there, a little bit of the Adam's apple. And we got that center blue line and lightning bolt line, center blue, lightning bolt. I'll probably put some darker ink here in this outer part of this costume to convey the black, but we'll do that a little bit later. Going to run a line here from the cheek down the jaw, just to kind of convey that. Light coming from above for the most part, and I'm just kind of angling off a little bit to the side. It's kind of my default, is to angle the light from this side. So I've put a little more line work over here to kind of convey a shadow and structure to his jawline. Now switching to the 0.1 micron for some finer details, like here inside of his ears. Got to get these little canal squiggles going. Ears have always been, had long been a challenge for me to kind of figure out that puzzle. I still will study ear canals every now and again because I've noticed in my research that there are some general shapes to the ear canal, but there also can be some slight variations depending on the person, which is kind of weird. Not something I expected to really kind of discover. Now it's not like drastic, but it's enough to make me go, huh, I could do the shape, the curve kind of goes this way and that way, but with this person, it kind of goes a little bit further to the outside and a little closer to the inside, things like that. So it's kind of an interesting little things that we can observe and then translate with our art. All right, so we're going to work on the nostrils here. Do the outer part, kind of the darker inner part of the nostril. I'm going to switch to the 0.05 for even finer detail. Not going to put a lot of detail in his nose, but just enough. Putting a little bit of the bridge on this side because, like I said, we got the light coming from this way, so a lot of the line art or shadow type area would fall on this side. Let's get his mouth working here. Do the top lip. Kind of have that little teardrop in the middle. And then the bottom lip. A little heavier line. See, I'm building up that line as needed to create that shadow. And then pull back up to the corners of the mouth for the fullness of the lip. A little bit of a space there for the chin. A little bit of a dimple there in the chin. Let's see what we can do here with the eyes. Just getting the eyebrows and then the somewhat almond shape of the eyeball. A little squint there. Convey just a little bit of emotion. Just gonna do a little fade here. So a series of lines pulling down from the dark black of his hair just down his head a little bit so it looks freshly shorn. He just got back from Supercuts. Got him, because I mean, it's a superhero, so where is he going to get his haircut? Supercuts, it's right there in the name. I mean, it's, I think it's glaringly obvious, but I mean, I wouldn't see him at Sports Cuts. I mean, I've never been to Sports Cuts, but I'm sure they do great. But I would imagine maybe a character more like NFL Super Pro. He would, have to choose, does he go to Supercuts or does he go to Sports Clips? Yeah, I guess it's called Sports Clips, Sports Cuts. There's so many hair cutters out there. Does Fantastic Sam still exist? If so, that's where the Fantastic Four would probably get their haircut, would be Fantastic Sam's, I would imagine. Because, again, you have to go to the hairstylist that matches your name or your career. That's why I go to Comic Artist Cuts. Yep, my stylist at Comic Artist Cuts, she knows exactly how to cut my hair. I go in, I go, give me the Peter B. Parker, please. I want the Peter B. Parker hairstyle. And she hooks me up. All right, maybe a little furrow to the brow there. Let's get a little bit of his iris and pupil in here. It could be all white because, you know, characters that have energy type powers can sometimes, like Storm, can have all white eyes, especially when their powers are activated. I just want to give him a little semblance of his iris there. A little pull to his jaw right there. Okay, so before I fill in the black areas with ink, I want to go ahead and erase. So I'm going to use my kneaded art gum eraser. You can just knead it like that, like kneading bread. K-N-E-A-D. Kneaded art gum eraser. We'll just take out all this graphite. And just see just those specific lines that I wanted, that I inked, be the only lines left on here. It's kind of like the fog has lifted and we can see clearly now the line art. Sometimes after I erase, I'll make some line art adjustments because now I have that graphite out of my way. I can see things more clearly. Whoa! I brushed so hard, I brushed the pad out of camera frame. Okay, so I'm going to take my zebra brush pen, medium here, and I'm going to put in some heavy black area of his uniform. Just leaving, since I said the light is coming from above, I'm putting heavier blacks on the bottom parts of the shapes and leaving lighter areas at the upper part of the shape because that's where the light would hit. So I can I'll probably use a series of gray markers to convey that black as a highlight, or the highlight on the black there. And now for his hair, I'm going to give it a little bit of a texture here. So starting here at the forehead, fully black. And then just pulling towards the outer part of the hair, or the outer part of the hairline. A series of small little lines here, little chunky line shapes. Chunky Lime Shapes was my garage band's name back in high school. Just bring that all the way out to the edge there. You can make it as concentrated or not as you want. So there we go. All right, so now it's time for some color. We're going to bring in my Copic markers. Use whatever you have on hand for your colors here. And we're going to start with his skin tone. So I'm going to use some specific colors here. I think I'm going to start with the E15. And work dark to light. So this is a darker shade of brown for a skin tone, so I'm going to use it in all the shadow areas. He has yellow lenses, so I'm not going to use it around his eyes. But I'm going to use it here on his forehead and bottom part of his face. The bottom of the goggles here, because the goggles might kind of cast a little bit of a shadow. Right there at where his brow furrows a little bit. So I'm going to think of each angle of his face and kind of work within those those parameters there. Like the angles of the face will kind of help inform how I want to color the shapes of his face. So I'm going to go to a lighter shade of brown, an E13, just slightly lighter. Always moving towards my light source. Then coming in with a little E11. To kind of really finish out these shapes here, but kind of blend it all together. Just using a little teeny tiny bit of the blue of the paper as a highlight on his face, like at the tip of his nose, just a little bit. A little bit there on the lip and chin. Not a lot, a little bit there on the side of the head. How did I learn to blend in the colors with Copic markers? Trial and error, a lot of experimentation. There weren't really a lot of YouTube tutorials I could find when I first started using Copic markers, so I just started experimenting with them, and that's kind of how I developed these skills and that I'm sharing with you here now. So let's see, let's move to, right now let's add a little bit of pink here in the tip of the nose, some R20. A little bit through the lips here. It's very subtle. A little bit in the cheeks, the chin, just kind of gives the character a little more life. It's very subtle but not overpowering. So now we can use the blues. So let's start with a B04 for the center section of his costume and his goggles, rims, not the lenses, but the rims. So again, I'm working dark to light. So on the opposite side of where the light would be hitting is where I'm going to put this darker shade of blue. Not too dark of a shade of blue, but dark enough for this approach. Oh, let's see, almost forgot his goggles. So since we said the light's coming from this direction, the light would be hitting right there, right there. So we put the darker shade of blue on the opposite side, because that would be the shadow side, which is kind of a nice rule of thumb to kind of start with. And then we can adjust as we go, bit by bit. Next up, and we got lightning effects coming up here in a little bit. So once we get the colors done, we're going to start working in some lightning effects. I've got some ideas of how I want to approach that. So I'm very excited to start playing with that. But first we got to get all of his basic colors. So now some B02, lighter shade of blue. Really taking advantage of this blue colored Post-it note as part of the blue for his costume and goggles. All right, now let's bring in that yellow. So I'm going to start with some Y21. Bottom parts of his lightning bolts there. And we're going to sculpt his face with the yellow. So this is kind of my darker shade of yellow. So we're going to go underneath the eyelids and at the bottom part of the eyelid. to help to start to convey that. Now, Y13, probably my favorite shade of yellow for traditional superhero costumes. Use this on a lot of X-Men type illustrations, because a lot of X-Men have yellow in their costumes. Put this yellow in his eyeball, because everything underneath these yellow lenses is just making everything look yellow underneath. His eyeballs, his skin, we're really seeing the yellow translate on top of that. All right, and now let's bring in some neutral gray for the black part of his costume. So we're going to come in with some neutral 4. So it's like the black fades to gray as it moves towards the light. The light is shining on that black and making it look gray. And now let's do some natural shadows here. So we're going to start with a cool gray 3. And we're going to put some shadows here in his skin tone. Not going to go too heavy with this because he will be, this is mainly to sculpt out the shape of the face. So we're kind of bending reality here a little bit because he will be, in a sense, a light source because of his lightning. But we kind of fudge reality just a little bit to convey the character and the world around him. Just enough fudge to get away with it. A little bit of a shadow underneath his chin. I think that's what I like about superhero comics, is that in some ways it's grounded in reality, in other ways it breaks the rules of reality. And that can kind of make it a fun diversion from reality. Because I get enough reality from living here on Earth. I like my comics to have a sense of believability, but then also go crazy. Give me weird, wild, crazy adventures and superpowers. Let me see things that I can't see in real life. Going to come in with some cool gray 2 for a little bit of shadow here in the in sculpting here inside of his goggles. Just again, just wanting to convey shape and form here. So that we're giving a 3-dimensional look to Black Lightning. I need to put some gray up in his hair here because it's black fading to gray, so a little neutral gray 5 right up through here to give him some nice dark hair. All right, so now we have the lightning situation here. So I'm going to have some lightning bolts arcing all around him. But first I want to put in a nice dark background. So I'm going to use these neutral grays. Actually, I want to start with neutral 6. I'm going to kind of create a sense of a stormy cloud. Well, kind of creating these wild shapes here with the brush tip to create a base that we can come in to do some lightning effects. So I almost want it to look like energy is coalescing off of him and around him. But I also want to, I'm going to come in and really bring that home with some other tools. So now some neutral gray 4. Going to go ahead and bring this color all the way up and to touching Black Lightning here. And then, let's see. I'm going to use some shades of blue, a little B02 here. Just kind of creating a background, a nice dark background effects. And now some B01. Always working from dark to light with my background fades. So just a real kind of textured background here, and using these blues amongst these grays to kind of keep a kind of similar colored energy signature effect around him. Now, my background, you know what, before I get to my next move here, I just want to come in and add a little more shadow here around his eyes. I really want there to be some nice dark to play off of. So I'm coming in with a little more cool gray 3. And I want a little cool gray 4, just a little more, need a little more contrast here in his goggles and uniform. I needed a little more contrast, a little darker in certain areas. So a little darker shadows. This is kind of a challenge with working on colored paper. So it's not the same as working on white paper as a background color. White is a lot easier because it's going to look more true. Here I'm working on a very dark colored Post-it, so as the ink dries, sometimes it dries lighter than what's applied, and so I have to make adjustments for the color shapes I'm ending up with here. Put a little pull from the nostril here for the facial muscles. So I'm adding a little darker shade of gray here because I realized the grays I used before were a little too light. And this is just an aspect of being an artist, is that sometimes we have to make some new choices depending on what we're seeing, and just, you know, kind of make choices as we go. So this is where study and practice can really pay off, because we're just equipping our brain with knowledge that we use for each illustration. So each illustration is a step forward in that knowledge. And that's how it kind of works with anything that we do. I know a lot of people like to play video games. And how do we play video games is trial and error. You know, you're moving forward in the game. I'm adding some more dark up in here because I realized I went in even more dark contrast in the sky, some neutral gray 6 again. But with video games, you know, you're moving along, and then you encounter a certain boss or level which is challenging, and you keep trying at it. You know, you fail, you respawn, you know, pick up at your last save point, and you keep going, and you encounter that boss again. And now you've learned from the previous experience. You now know, well, this didn't work, so let me try this. That was better, but I need, you know, you figure out the combination to achieve your goal to move on to the next level. That's how I see it with art. And maybe just about anything it is that we want to do, is that it's a series of learning from our mistakes. That's why I say just go for it. Just go for it, and you'll learn as you go. So we're going to come in with my Uniball Signo white gel pen. And I'm going to put the white outline here. This is not quite the finishing move yet. I know this is oftentimes my finishing move, but this is just, there's one more move after this, because I'm sure many of you are thinking, well, wait, you said you're going to do lightning effects. I am. First, I want to put in the outline that goes around the figure. I want to do this first, and then lightning effects is what's going to bring this all home. So as always, bringing the white line right up next to the black line, not over it. I want to keep my line weights. Okay. So now I'm going to start to arc off of black lightning his lightning shapes. And these can be fun, zigzaggy lines. So maybe I'll see it as kind of maybe a lightning bolt. Like he works in lightning, so he's probably fairly impervious to lightning. Like he can handle a lightning strike because that's kind of his jam. So thick and thin little lines here. So I'm going to bring, if I imagine that lightning bolt kind of coming all the way down to here, I can bring the bolt kind of over to this side. Again, same with my inking technique of thick and thin lines. More pressure for a thick line, less pressure for a thin line can kind of create that sense of lightning, or that variation of line weight to get kind of like a natural line. Sometimes I can double up the line to create a natural sort of look. Look up pictures of lightning when you go to draw lightning. If you're not quite certain what to do, look at how it looks in real life, and then from there you can kind of experiment and create your lightning shapes. You don't have to do it exactly like the photo you're looking at, but looking at the photo can kind of help inform you on how you might want to translate that. I'm going to put white highlight here in his eyes. But you know what? We're going to also have some white lightning coming out from his eyes. Because the eyes are the window to the weather forecast. And right now this is saying, beware of lightning strikes, of justice. It's coming off of both eyes here. So see, I have this nice dark background so that these lightning bolts can really pop. They can really stand out. And this can be such a fun kind of the icing on the cake. You know, icing on the cake can be so sweet and delicious. Well, doing the little textures like this, these little details here, actually a lot of detail here, can be really, really fun. So his eyes are kind of just, put a few little more dots in there, like his eyes are charged up, ready to bring the heat in the form of electrical lightning powers. Again, of justice, always for justice and goodness and the betterment of mankind. Except for those that use their powers for evil, then that's why we have characters like Black Lightning to come and bring the heat. So I'm going to have some lightning just kind of arcing around him here, because he is like fully charged. And I'm keeping in mind where I'm putting these lightning things. Like I'm leaving a big spot right there so that it's not exactly all the way around him, the same shapes. We want to create some different shapes, variations, so that it's not so repetitious. So sometimes it's a challenge to leave a big chunk unlightninged. But that can be a nice design effect. And can be a great learning experience to try to figure out how to do that. From here, I'm going to put a bigger energy spike. thicken up some of the lines from, or sections from some of the lightning bolts. Now I'm leaving some space here to put my signature, because it's almost time for that. Put a few little dots around, just like residual energy. Don't want a lot, because I don't want it to look like it's snowing, but just enough. Just enough to give the viewer just a little eye candy. Maybe a few little dots here amongst his shoulders. Now now that I look at this, I want to find my white pencil. Put a bit of a white highlight here in his goggles, just to convey that light. A little bit here in the whites of his eyes. I'm gonna put a little bit of a white highlight right here on his tip of his nose. Maybe a little bit of a white highlight here on his bottom lip, because the light would be hitting right there. Just kind of give him a little life on his body. On his face, I should say, more specifically. All right, you know what? I'm gonna leave it at that. Sometimes people ask, how do you know when you're done? Sometimes you just have to take a risk and go, that's it. I'm gonna stop here. You can always go back and add more, but it's a challenge to kind of figure that out. And it's easy to kind of want to go back in there and noodle things, which I'm about to do. I'm running a risk here. I want a thicker lightning bolt a little bit up here at the top. But yeah, it's so tempting. It can be so tempting to just go back in there and just noodle things out. But you kind of have to know when to say when and step away. And sometimes stepping back can show you, oh, wow, wait a second, I need to fill in that spot. And then sometimes you can go, you know what? It's good I stopped when I did, because that's just enough. So let's put my name in here. And today is the 3rd of April. '20. Boom, black lightning. All drawn up. So let's flip the camera around and we can wrap up today's live stream. All right, let me just clip back into the rig. Okay, gang, thanks so much. Thanks for hanging out with me. Hopefully you had fun. Maybe you learned something. If you liked the video, please do leave me a thumbs up. I appreciate that. Feel free to leave a comment in the comment section below. Thank you for all the live viewers for posting your comments and questions. I appreciate that interaction. I'll be posting a shot of Black Lightning here on my social media, and those links are in the video description below, so you can find me on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, etc. So join me, please. And also have a link to this image coming up here real soon, so you can click the link and go right to the post on Instagram of Black Lightning here. So yeah, my first time to draw this costume, and I had a lot of fun. It was really fun here drawing all these DC superheroes this week. Not sure what next week's theme might be, if there'll be a theme at all. It could just be potluck, potpourri, random characters. I don't know. I always decide this stuff last minute. So, because that's the way I live my life. Just trial and error. Just figure things out as I go along. I call that the Indiana Jones way. Just make it up as you go along. Figure it out as you go through there and learn. We learn as we go. So don't be afraid of making mistakes, especially with your art. Don't be afraid of making mistakes. That's why we have erasers. That's why we have whiteout. Make mistakes, because you're going to learn from your mistakes. Learning from our mistakes is how we grow and can get better at our art. So go for it. Just go for it. Don't worry about messing it up, because a true artist can do a drawing, crumple it up, throw it away, because they can always create another one. So don't worry about making mistakes. Have fun. That's what it's all about. Have fun with the process, because art is a journey more so than it is a final destination, because we're always learning, we're always growing, because there's always new stuff to study, practice, and learn. Thanks for hanging out with me, and hopefully you learned something. Please feel free to share my videos with other people. Let people know, hey, come watch this guy ramble on about comics and art and stuff. I appreciate that. And don't forget to subscribe. I'll have the little subscribe button right here so you can subscribe to my channel when you watch this on replay. And yeah, I'll set your notifications to alert you the next time I schedule a live stream. And hopefully I'll have a chance to maybe do a live stream this weekend, a non-post-it live stream this weekend. We'll see how things go if I have the time. And in the meantime, if you're looking to watch videos, replay people, you can watch one of these 2 videos here. So, and I have so much more content on my channel and more to come. Gang, I hope you're doing well during the coronavirus stay-at-home season. Please stay healthy. Please keep your hands washed. And yeah, please be careful. Maintain that distance when you're out in public so that we can hopefully get things back to normal as soon as possible so we don't have to stay so distant anymore. But thanks for hanging out with me. Hope y'all had a great week, and I look forward to seeing you again real soon. I'm Todd Nauck. Keep on drawing. Keep having fun. Take care.